So burnout when we talk about burnout, we're talking about excessive, prolonged periods of stress that can disrupt our daily functioning. So yeah, we're not talking about, just the everyday stress, but it's prolonged. And it's a bit like, the burning frog metaphor. So, it says that if you put a frog in boiling hot water, it will jump out. But if you slowly increase the temperature, you put the frog in warm water, you increase it, the frog will boil to death because it hasn't detected the threat, because it keeps adjusting its body temperature. That's essentially what burnout looks like. We can be in a very unhealthy environment, relationship, whatever that may be. And because we have failed to realize the threat, there's an imminent threat, but we're like, oh, it's okay. I'll just compromise. I'll adjust. And by the time we realize, it's too late.
Dr. Tamia Ryan, and I'm here with Maz Alexander for his helping individuals develop and maintain sustainable boundaries. Caregivers, those in the healthcare profession. She has over 7,000 followers and extensive experience working with frustrated individuals who might be experiencing caregiver burnout. She's here today to share some strategies for implementing self care and also help us know how we can maintain authentic connections with others. So, thank you so much, Mas, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'd love to just dive right in and learn a little bit about what led you on this journey that you're on.
Yes, certainly. Um, as you thank you for the wonderful introduction. I do wear many hats, and where I am and where I'm going is still being written. So I am a social worker by trade, and I stipulate I'm an adult social worker, because when I say that to people, they're like, "You take people's kids," and I'm like, "No, I don't." I work with adults in the mental health sector, and I've done that for nearly 18 years. So after I qualified. Uh, I practiced as a social worker, but I took those skills and I trained about 8 years ago as a coach, because I found it a more empowering way to get the transformational results that people are seeking. So I combined those skills, as well as my own personal um, experiences of mental health challenges. And I coach people. I do various talks. I've written books. I have two published books about this very topic. So that's why. And I feel very strongly about it, because too many people are suffering in silence. And I'm specifically talking about those who are the caregivers, because the ones that are cared for, yeah, they got this, but people tend to forget about the people who are providing the care.
Yes, yes. And that's so important. We always tell caregivers that they need to take care of themselves, right? And we say that, and we have like this little self care checklist, that we like to share and things of that nature. What do you find that caregivers struggle with the most?
Yeah, there's so many things, because I know I did, but essentially it's about yeah, they may lack boundaries. Not all of them do, or their boundaries may be a bit too rigid. And it's essentially about giving themselves permission. Now, I work with women primarily, but I'm sure men experience this feeling of not doing enough, not being good enough. Hence why they're nurturers at heart. So they always want to give more, more and more and more. So they struggle with their own self-care, of which boundaries are a part of that. And that's what tends to lead to the burnout that they experience. But the main thing is about not giving ourselves permissions to take time for ourselves, permission to not be the one that does everything and have all the expectations laid at our feet. Yeah. I was just thinking, that there's so many things, but yeah, the on the emotional side, it's, yeah, the guilt, shame, obligation, all of those things, which kind of drives some of them to do what they do. Um, so yeah, there's many factors which are unique to the individual.
Yes. And just talking a little bit about boundaries, what are some of the boundary setting techniques that you've worked with caregivers on?
Well, again, so many. Yeah, just how about let's just start saying no. Many people do, especially within the industry. They cannot say no because they don't feel that they can, and I get that because and it's things like yeah, the overcommitment to work. So you because you want to help
Mhm.
so many people. I see this especially with my nursing colleagues, the doctors I work with. You want to help so many people, so you try and fit one more in, one more, and it's even worse if it's your own family. You're going to go the extra mile because it's your elderly mother or it's your kids. So, or I had a reverend the other day. It's your congregation and you feel like you're doing, when religion comes into it, you want to do God's work. So there are people are motivated by different factors, so they tend to want to promise the world, but they can't, and that's why they get burnt out. Again, they struggle with so many different things, which can show up physiologically as well and physically in the body. It might be that they're just lacking. They have insomnia. They turn to maladaptive ways of coping. They're drinking more, they're eating more, or working more, whatever that looks like. But I find that the most thing, yeah, it's just, yeah, not being able to say no, or to communicate. There's this sense that if I tell you what I need, I don't want to be confrontational, so I'll avoid it. And it's easier just for me to say yes. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I have an increasing caseload. And yes, I'll try and be superwoman because that's seen as strength. And if I ask for
Yeah.
help, that's weakness.
Mhm. And I love that you're working not just with those in the professional setting, but also working with those that may be in a more traditional or as a family caregiver, caring for a parent or another loved one. What are some of the key distinctions that you see from working with those that are in the professional sector versus that are more personal caregivers?
Well, they're very similar, but like I say, the ones who are looking after their own loved ones tend to go the extra mile. We see this. So I was burnt out myself, so I'm speaking from both sides. But for example, in the statutory service that we offer, because over here we have a national health service, and the government rely on the people to
Mhm.
so they save billions each year because we don't have to put people in care homes or in supported living placements for vulnerable adults because they're at home being cared for. Um,
Mhm.
so those ones, so whether it's mother looking after son or you're looking after your spouse, often it's their identity. I find it crosses over because they'll say, "Well, that's my son. That's my. Of course, I'm not his carer. I'm not his caregiver. That's what we do." And
Mhm.
and so they tend to sometimes, because of that identity and not distinguishing that, then that can lead to burnout as well because they think that's their job. It's their job, not knowing that actually, if if you were to place your mother who has dementia in a care home, she needs nursing 2 to 1. She needs the help.
Mhm.
How do you think you can manage if two people cannot manage, and she needs 24-hour care? So the identity is one thing, although similarly in the field as a social worker, as a coach, you say that's my job, but you can
Mhm.
maintain more professional boundaries because sometimes, as you know, Tammy,
Mhm.
that people may mistake you for their friend, their
Right.
oh yeah, you're my. I'm like, no, I'm not your therapist. I'm not your friend. I'm
Mhm.
not. You really have to clarify because there is a level of I won't say intimacy, but because the boundaries can get blurred, so at least you have that more protection uh,
Mhm.
with the professional boundaries. But it's ultimately, like I say, it comes down to the fact that we are nurturers, and that's why we get into this field. They call us the wounded soldiers. And that's because
Mm,
we've been through something. We wanted to change the system, and that's why we got into it. But then you can become disillusioned because you're like, I thought I was gonna make a change. I mean, that's why
right.
I'm a coach, Tammy, because I got into social work thinking I was going to do all these revolutionary things. And then I was like, nah, I'm just an agent of the state who's sometimes
Mm,
perpetuating the oppression that I see that I want to change. So yeah, that's I would say those are the main. There's lots of others, but and we'll discuss as we go along. But those are the main things. It's about identity and what you can and what you will and won't allow yourself to do. So yeah.
yes. And understanding, I love that part that you talked about the identity concept because we sometimes just have this one role that we feel we are,
Mm.
and we're not able to differentiate who we are. What's our story? We're so wrapped up in I'm a mother, I'm a spouse, I'm a this, I'm a that, that we sometimes lose focus of who we are in that. And so it sounds like you're helping people reconnect with themselves as they're going through, whether it's professionally or personally, serving in a caregiver role. What are some of do you encounter resistance sometimes when you're trying to help people, through this sort of coaching experience, helping them, maintain their identity? Is there any resistance that sometimes you encounter?
Yeah, all the time. Like I said, for me, I always use myself as an example because I didn't. I know it's big in the States, but in here in the UK, we do have coaches, but we the British are a bit more conservative, so we don't just be talking about our problems like that. So when you say that, even now, some people are like, "What's a coach?"
Mhm.
I am a mental health and well-being coach, but they'll be like, "I'm not mental." I'm like, I didn't say you were, but we all have mental health. So I'm very and this week is mental health awareness way.
Mhm.
So I'm very keen on telling people, just like you have physical health. So if you had a broken leg, Tammy, I don't say, oh my God, you see, Tammy, she has a broken leg. Let's stay away from her. No, sometimes your leg is broken.
Right.
Sometimes you be in the stage of healing. Sometimes financially you're not wealthy, and sometimes you just broke, and
Mhm.
so there are we move through these stages and seasons because none of us we're human beings. We're not immune to when life is lifing. So the
Right.
resistance helping people understand that because they believe lies, they believe misconceptions about that. So the first one, as I mentioned, is about mental health not being relevant to them, and especially in
Mhm.
the faith community. Because, like I said, recently I've had two pastors. I'm like, what you coming to me for? I need to come to you. Yeah, you know, but they do because they have believed the lie that poverty is humility, or I have to do everything. I have to even to the extent, Tamir, some of the women who I've coached have been in abusive relationships. They because they believed that that was they wanted to be in submission, and that was showing honor. Both Christians and Muslim women who this is where faith comes in and all of that. So the reason
Mhm.
can be because of cultural factors, religious factors, socio-economic factors, and just limiting beliefs, just limit
Right.
yeah, sometimes people just don't feel like, oh, don't bother with me. That's a common one I hear. Don't bother with me. There are people who are more traumatized than me. I don't deserve this time. I'm like, we're not comparing our traumas here.
Yeah.
You,
Mhm.
if you want to be the best that you can be, if nothing else changes in your life, are you happy with that? Are you content to live your life
Mhm.
as is? So, it just, again, give ourselves permission and stop comparing ourselves, comparing our traumas, and stop saying, oh, because that's where burnout happens as well. Because you're like, oh, well, I'm strong.
Yeah.
I've always been able to do this, and I can do it. I'm an ex-military, or I'm the. It's like I don't care about your titles. It's like you
Right.
said there earlier. Who are you when you're not somebody's mother? When you're not
Mhm.
a doctor? When you're not the CEO? Who are you? When you're crying into your pillow at night, what's that about? What is it? Let's explore that. So yeah.
And when we burnout, let's get into burnout for a second because and I know you can appreciate this with your social work background. We are always talking about preventing burnout, right? And then we are the ones many times that land in burnout because
Yes.
we are taking so much on. Can you talk a little bit about the signs of burnout? Because a lot of times when we realize we're burnout, we feel so far gone. We've just ignored the red flags. Can you talk a little bit about what are the warnings?
Yes. Oh, there are so many because it happened to me, by the way. And I was just trying to be compliant. I was trying to be a good social worker, do my best, be a good citizen, all of that. And yeah, it cost me because yeah. So burnout looks when we talk about burnout, we're talking about excessive, prolonged periods of stress that can disrupt our daily functioning. So yeah, stress is. We're not talking about just the everyday stress, but it's prolonged, and it's a bit like the burning frog metaphor. So, it says that if you put a frog in boiling hot water, it will jump out. But if you slowly increase the temperature, you put the frog in warm water, you increase it, the frog will boil to death because it hasn't detected the threat, because it keeps adjusting its body temperature. That essentially what burnout looks like. We can be in a very unhealthy environment, relationship, whatever that may be. And because we have failed to realize the threat, there's an imminent threat, but we're like, oh, it's okay. I'll just compromise, I'll adjust. And by the time we realize, it's too late. So I see the other extreme. So I'm not talking about my coaching clients here. I'm talking about, so when I'm on the psychiatric ward and I'm working there, because part of my role is to discharge the psychiatric patients. And I'm like, how did you get here? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And they often, you can track the changes is because as some of these people are carers, some of them are in highly stressful jobs. And what has occurred is they have failed to ask for help. The signs were there. So the signs look like increased irritability. Like I mentioned earlier, perhaps you're not sleeping. You know what's normal for you. So I know they say 8 hours, but some people get by on 5 or 6. Your changes in your eating patterns. Um, when you start to feel resentful as well, that's an indication. You have no boundaries and they have been violated. You start to feel disillusioned. I know I did. You start to really, you might be experiencing compassion fatigue as well. You may have digestive issues, all manner of things that can present physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and you are just exhausted. So even after a good rest, you're still exhausted, and you have this sense of dread, that you don't want to go to work, or you don't want to continue in that environment anymore. So those are some of the things, because it can be very sneaky, to me. It's a bit of, because clearly, if you thought, oh gosh, I don't feel right today, but it might be just a gradual process where you think, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? And then you ignore it. You're like, oh, I'm fine.
Right.
I got work to do. That's what I did. You carry on, like, no, I don't have time to feel this today. I don't like this feeling, but and
Mhm.
it accumulates till, it's like that book says, the body keeps the score, because your body will tell you before even your mind. And one day you just might not be able to get out of bed, or you have an excruciating headache, or you end up in the hospital, and the doctor might say, well, we're not sure what caused that, because otherwise you're healthy.
Right.
And it's just your body saying, no, no more. You're not going
That's
to
it.
put me through anymore. Yeah.
That's it. Because the body will shut you down when it's time to shut you down. Whether you keep going or not, it's gonna say, you know what? You're not gonna stop. I'm gonna stop you. And I think you talked earlier about the shame and the guilt that comes with recognizing that you're at your point. What are some of the techniques or strategies that you're helping people with in moving away from that guilt and shame?
Yes. Well, I address this in some of my coaching programs, and also I've written a book, Arise Kintsugi Queens, which acknowledges this very point. So in terms of that, it's about, often, again, I keep saying, giving ourselves permission, but before that, we need to raise our awareness. If you're not aware and you're in denial, then I can't really help you with the issue. So predominantly, especially when we're talking about women of color,
Mhm.
particularly this notion of the strong Black female.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't subscribe to that. What is strong? Is it, because I say that, I mention that because a lot of the clients, we're overrepresented here in
Mhm.
criminal justice system, in the mental health. And that's why I ask people, how did you get here? What? And if you don't know, then you're going to repeat the same things. So what I do is I challenge the limiting beliefs. I help them to essentially just reframe some of those things, because the people pleasing as well that goes on, even if people aren't aware of it, this we're conditioned as women, as small girls, it's good to share. We're taught to share, aren't we?
Mhm.
Oh, and it might be just give, people are constantly invading our boundaries. Give auntie a hug. And it's not even your auntie. It's just,
Right.
we constantly have to share and give. Boys don't get the same. At least not back in the day, they didn't. So we're
Mhm.
constantly being told we have to give, and we've been conditioned. There are cultural factors within that. So that's why I mentioned that. So I work on those misconceptions as well, and help people to reframe and again reclaim their identity, because if you want to live an authentic life, we have
Mhm.
to cover, because it's connected to your purpose. I do believe we're all here for a purpose, even if we don't know what that is. Our mission is to discover what that is and to walk in it. So I help people do that, and it's been so rewarding watching the transformation of some of my clients. So, and it's because it's just a step by step process of them, and implementing healthy boundaries as part of that process, and just knowing who you are. Like I said, it's especially if
Mhm.
you're having a midlife crisis, and COVID taught us, didn't it, Tammy? Because everything, you go to a business meetings, I know I do, and people say,
Yeah.
"Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, do you want to know what I do, or do you want to know who I am? Because for me, when I meet you, all I want to know is you have a good heart.
Mhm.
I don't really care what you do. I don't care if you are the CEO, because people love titles, but I don't care. I just want to know what
Yeah.
your heart's saying. So yeah, COVID,
Mhm.
I mentioned during the lockdown, we had to reassess who we are. Many people couldn't work, many people lost loved
Right.
ones. So it's like, who are you when your identity is not attached to this person? My daughter now, she's grown up. Um, I'm still her mom, but who am I? She's not a baby anymore. So,
Mhm.
you know, I got this empty nest thing going on. I'm divorced. So I'm not somebody's wife anymore. So I have to constantly reevaluate and find out who I am apart from these people. And I'm rediscovering that, because
Right.
I travel a lot and all of that. So essentially, I help. That's how I help them to get the self-care. And listen, if you do need therapy, if you do need to address some things for the past, because that's not really what I do, then there's that as well.
Mhm.
Often, Tammy,
Yes.
it's just helping people have that guided conversation, because we're on autopilot. And I mean, when was the last time
Mhm.
someone asked you, Tamia, what do you want to do with your life? How is life? And really meant it. When was
Right.
So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Yes, and you said so many things that are resonating, but I want to go back to the point you talked about COVID, because that was like a paradigm shift for a lot of people. We were forced to stand still in many situations, and I think a lot of people started reevaluating their life. And they're like, you know what? I don't think I really like what I'm doing career wise. I don't like this job. I don't like this. And people really started, I feel, taking back control. Like it forced us to really sit and be like, okay, are we okay with, what's kind of going on in our lives right now? We have so much time to think. And so I've just noticed that shift, and even within myself, it just kind of pushed me in a different direction. It kind of sped things up where I was like, you know what, Tamia, I think you need to go ahead and do this. Let's step out and try some new things. So yeah, I definitely see that movement that's happened since then. I want to thank you so much for the time, Maz, that you've been here, but definitely want you to be able to share the coaching programs that you have, where people can find you, and talk a little bit about more how you are helping people and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just really appreciate this platform, and I everything I do. By the way, I didn't mention the comedy because I think it's important to be able to laugh at yourself. So I'm also, when I'm not coaching, when I'm not social working and writing books, I do some stand-up comedy. And
Oh, I love it.
yeah, take those traumas. Although I remember a therapist saying, Maz, you shouldn't use, I'm speaking from my scars rather than my wounds.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it wasn't funny then, but it's funny now. I can laugh about it. I grew up with Jamaican parents. There's so much comedy gold in that. It's like we're all traumatized. But from the Caribbean, we traumatized, trust me. But yeah, listen, guys, you can connect with me. So on Instagram, it's Maz Transformational Coaching, or just Maz Alexander on LinkedIn. If you Google me, I'll come up. And feel free to connect, have a conversation. If anything I said resonates, then I would love to hear from you. And just finally to say that, oh yes, the book Arise Kintsugi Queens. That's one of my first books. That's available on Amazon, and it's about the Kintsugi principle, Tamia. So it's the Japanese art form that is, when you break pottery, or
Mhm.
they glue it together. You've probably seen it. Glue it together
Yeah.
with gold lacquer, so they recreate it, and so it's more beautiful than the original. So
Mm.
it's kind of like this beauty for ashes concept, and basically it's saying that we can embrace our imperfections. So in the same way, to me, that if I gave you $50 and you dropped it in the mud, you can still dust it off and spend it because it retains its value. You don't just leave it there and say, oh no, it's dirty, I'm not going to use that.
Right.
And many of us women, many of us wounded warriors, we've all been through something. I'm sure everybody has a level of adversity and traumas, and we're survivors. So it's just basically saying that in spite of where you are, you feeling not good enough, you still retain your value, and you still have a purpose. Now go and walk in it. So that's what it's all about. But yes, thank you so much.
Yes, and we'll have all your information down in the podcast description so people can find you, link with you. Please go back. I always say rewatch the episode because sometimes you got to sit and process things before you can do the work. But I appreciate you so much for being here today. We'll definitely have you back because I know you're going to keep continuing to prosper and do great things. So everyone stay tuned for the next episode of the Lived Experiences. We'll see you back.